Hello, everyone. You're welcome to my live stream. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for joining in on this live session. So today we're going to be concluding the cutting aspect of a castle. So here is the previous live that I did. Here I shared on how to cut a cassock. So here is the cassock that we cut. As I stated earlier in one of my videos that so beautiful people, here is the cassock that we cut the previous class, and here is the front base. So here is the front, here is for the double layer. So I've explained how to cut a cassock. I have explained this in my previous video. I've explained it extensively, even in previous videos that you see on my channel. I have explained on how to cut a cassock. So today, in today's video, we are going to be making a cassock. That is, today's video is all about the sewing of a cassock. So in today's video, in today's live stream, I am going to be sharing with you on how to sew a full cassock. So that is what today's video is about. And here is the two sides of the front panel for the cassock. So you can see here it's a double layer. And I get a lot of questions, people asking me about how I fold this double layer, how I get this double layer folding. And trust me, it's not difficult at all. It's very simple, very, very simple. It's not difficult. All you just need to do is to pay your mind to it and to give it your full attention. So for here, I'm just going to do a quick recap on this. That is in case of those that are just joining today that were not in the previous classes. So here, as you can see, I always explain this, even my videos, that in making of the castle, especially this front panel, like the inner one, the inner layer must be at least like quarter of an inch shorter to this outer layer, because here this inner layer is where the button holes will be, and this outer layer is where you can put your maybe fancy buttons or your trimmings, or just leave it that way. So now the very important thing about these two layers is that you can see that the inner layer here is, you can see that the outer layer here is like a little bit wider than this inner layer. That is because the inner layer must not be longer than this outer layer. The outer layer must be longer than the inner layer. That is because the outer layer must cover up the inner layer. That is how it should be for a standard cassock. All right, so they must not be on the same length, and also the inner layer must not be wider than the outer layer. All right, so basically, which means this outer layer must be wider or longer than the inner layer. All right, so, and this is how to go about the folding. In my previous video, please just check the previous live video I made. I explained there extensively on how to fold this double layer. So if you don't really know how to do it, please, you can just refer to my previous videos where I shared on how to fold these layers. All right, thank you so much. Then another thing is, for the other side, this is 2 inches, because you know a cassock has two sides on the front. So here is where the buttons will be, and the folding for this is 2 inches. And someone asked me, I got a question where someone asked me that these 2 inches, is it constant? And I will answer and say no, it's not constant. All right, you can expect that when you're making for someone younger, maybe for a little child, maybe like 1 year, 3 years or so, then you use 2 inches for the front folding. You know, it will be too wide, to be too much. So it depends on the size of the individual. Right? But when you're making for a standard adult, this 2 inches is constant. Okay, so it shouldn't be more than 2 inches, and it shouldn't be shorter than 2 inches. 2 inches is standard for an adult individual. And then, except the client signifies or says otherwise, then maybe you can increase the measurement. Okay, so the same thing goes for this. Here also is 2 inches. And as I said earlier, so if you're making for a smaller sized individual, smaller sized client, then these 2 inches might not be up to 2 inches, might be lesser than 2 inches. So that is that. We have cut both the fronts in the previous video, and here, as you can see, this is the front that I cut, this is the armhole, this is the neckline, this is the shoulder slope. Let me make sure you can see this clearly. Okay, so this is the neckline, here is the shoulder slope, here is the armhole. All right, here is the chest line, and then it's hovering down to the waistline. You can see here is the pocket allowance. I showed it in my, please, I'd like you to refer to my previous video, please. I explained a lot extensively because I brought in a cassock, that a ready-made cassock made by me, and I explained a lot of things there. So what I'll be explaining today is we are going on to the practical section, because I've explained the theoretical section in the previous video, and I'm just going to go right into the practical section. All right, in my previous video, my previous live, I also showed you how to join the shoulders, how to top stitch the shoulders, and a lot of basic features on a cassock. All right, so here is the pocket allowance, and for the pocket allowance, is going to be forming the pleats at the sides of the cassock. So this pocket allowance also depends on the individual. All right, for a normal adult, you can use 3 inches for the pocket allowance, but for a more another that is chubby, you can increase it to like 4 inches. Okay, so then it decreases also with the age or the height of the individual. Like for a small child, you can't use 3 inches, to be too wide and then too big for the child. All right, so that is how it goes. Now this is for the front panel, the 2 front panels, and here is the back. So for the back, that was where we the live video where I showed how to cut a cassock. So we stopped here on the back. So I'm just going to rush through this, and then we go on into the practical section of sewing a cassock. So here you can see that here I have 3 inches here. That is what I use. So I explained this in my previous video, that this 3 inches is not constant. Okay, so different, but this is the back allowance. There's always I'm going to cut it out this way. So here is it. I've cut out the back at the sides. So after I'm done with that, you can see that both the armhole and the sides, all straight down, they are all equal. So that should be your aim. So both the armhole, the sides, down to the waistline and down to the hem, they are all equal for both the back and the front. The next thing we are going to cut now is the shoulder line, and then we cut the neckline. So I'm going to move this up a little. So for more accuracy, you can use your pins to hold this down, just the way I'm going to be doing right now. I'm going to be holding this down with my pins. Then I'll cut this out at the shoulder. So that is why I said that I always leave out just a little allowance. So now I'm going to be cutting. Now I'm going to be trimming off that allowance here. Okay, so that is it. So you can see that both for the back and the front, this is the front, this is the back. So you can see their armholes are equal. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I will come down to the neckline, and I'll be cutting the neckline. So for the neckline, I'm just going to mark this neckline that I have here for the front. Okay, mark that same effect. So mark the same point, just like this. Then I'll take this off, and then I'm going to be coming down by 1 inch for the back. So I'm going to connect this 1 inch for the back to this mark I have. So you can as well fold in these 2 inches. Since she's going to so here is 3 inches. We are folding in these 3 inches. So I'm going to be folding it in. And I'm going to mark 1 inch. And then I'll connect to this previous mark that I have. Now just cut this and stitch this point. So that is for the cutting of the front and the back. So let me place it this way so that you can see. So you can see here is the shoulder slope, here is the armhole curve, then here, this is the chest line, then down to the waistline, the pocket curve allowance, and then down to the hem of the fabric. So you can see how straight this is. And you can see the shape that we got here. Okay, so when cutting your fabric or cassock, the first thing that will help you that will guarantee a good result from you is even your cuttings. Your cuttings must be on point, even without sewing. All right, so you can see from your cuttings that yes, you are making progress. Now that is for the back, and here is for the front. So here is the overlapped area on the front, and this is the single so you can see this is the front and then the back that I showed you earlier. So now we are going over to the stitching of this cassock. So I'm really sorry for the background noise, background noise you might be hearing. So sorry about that. It's a live video, so I can't edit that off. So I'm so sorry. So thank you so much for the understanding. Now, the next thing we're going to do is stitching a cassock. The first step is to stitch down. We're going to be working on the front panel first. So the first step to do is to stitch down this side, the two sides, the front panel, the two sides. I'm going to be stitching this down with my sewing machine. I used a pin to hold this down. So I'm going to be taking out the pins now, and I'll stitch this down. I'll stitch this front, I'll stitch it down. Then same thing applies to this side. Also, we're stitching it down straight. So then after we're done stitching, then the next thing we are going to do is, after you have stitched both sides, now that is complete, then the next thing you're going to take the back. This is the back panel, and then you open the back. This is the back panel. So the first thing you're going to do for the back panel is the 3 inches inner allowance for the back panel here. So I'm going to be stitching. My phone is So the first thing is to stitch down at the shoulders. So sorry. So the first thing is to stitch down at the, let me see, I don't know if you can see very well. So here, sorry, my machine is just trying to malfunction, but this fabric I'm using is for the sake of this tutorial. So the main thing here is I really want you to get what we are trying to do. So here is for the first side, as you can see. So stitch it down like this with your sewing machine. Then the second side here, I'm going to be stitching this down as well. So you will notice that I left like 1 inch. I left 1 inch open. Yes, because we're going to be You're going to need that little space. So that was why I left it open. Now the other side. So you see here also, we have stitched down. Please don't mind the stitches of my machine, just don't mind it. So now we've stitched down both this other layer that has the overlap. So here is the inner layer, here is the outer layer. And you also notice that I left some few inches here. Yes, I'm going to be needing that. Now on this 1 inch mark that I have here, I'm just going to notch it so that this can signify and remind me of this 1 inch I have here. I'll just give it a notch like that. So I'll do same for this side as well. This 1 inch mark that I have, just give it a notch. So this is the first thing to do. After stitching down both the front panels, now I'm going to be working on the back panel. So here is the back panel. Then the first thing we're going to do to stitch this back panel is to stitch in the 3 inches. You know that 3 inches that we ruled out? Yes, these 3 inches that we ruled out here. This 3, we're going to be stitching it in. So that is what I'm going to do next. Ewa. Ewa wo. Ṣé ló tún blink? So here it's, so this is after stitching down the 3 inches allowance for the back. Now, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to attach both the front and the back. We're going to attach both at the shoulders. So here is the back. So here is the front. This is the first one. So you can see that. So as you can see here, we are not done with the cutting, with the sewing of this cassock, but you can see that this is very, very right. You can see that the shoulders, both the front and the back, the shoulders are equal, and also you can see that the necklines are equal. All right, so now I want to put your mind to something. So you can see that here is the midpoint for the back, and our 1 inch notch on this front is resting on the joint side of the back, which means that what we are doing is correct, which means that our cutting is very, very correct. So if you want to know if your cutting is correct, if it's perfect, if you have cut this right, then when you're about to join both shoulders together, you should have equal, it should be equal like this. Both for the back panel and the front panel, you can see both shoulders are equal. That is point 1. Point 2, you can see that the necklines are equal as well. Then point 3, you can see that our joint, because here is the center back. This side, but this side with the joining, this is the center back, and the center back must correlate with this 1 inch for the front, because this 1 inch for the front is where you're going to overlap the front on each other on this 1 inch point. So it must align with the center, right? So just like this. Now we know that the right thing. So the next thing for us to do now is to stitch the shoulders by half of an inch. So I'm going to be stitching down with half of an inch. So I'm going to measure half of an inch. For this machine here, this particular manner machine does not have the calibrated numbers. So I like working with the calibrated numbers. It makes my workings neat. I have a video on it here on my channel where I explained on the significance of the calibrated numbers on the plate of the machine. So since we don't have that, so let's just try to do this manually. Now I'm going to mark half so that I can get a straight stitch at my shoulder line here. I'm going to mark my half of an inch here. Then I'll mark half of an inch here as well.